Sarai Voss knocked at the porch step of the Isham Ranch at 3 in the afternoon, on a Tuesday in September, with her 2 daughters holding her skirt and her 1 carpetbag beside her, and she said, before the door was fully open, "Sir, I am not asking for charity. I am asking for a day's work in trade for a night's shelter." Bram Isham opened the door the rest of the way. He was 34. He was in a plain wool shirt with the sleeves rolled to the forearm. He had a plain, honest ledger in his hand from the ranch office. He looked at Sarai. He looked at her daughters, Ada, 7, and Prue, 5. He looked at the carpetbag. He looked at the road behind her, empty of any wagon. He said, "Ma'am, how far have you walked?" Sarai said, 14 miles today, 22 yesterday, 20 the day before, from Silver Ridge. Bram Isham set the ledger down. He said, "Ma'am, come in. The girls also. My Aunt Netta lives here. My hand, old fell, is at the bunkhouse. There is a plate of stew on the back of the stove. There is a west room with a good bed. Please do not, on my porch step, offer a day's work in trade. Please come in. We will discuss the trade at supper." Sarai Voss looked at Bram Isham a long moment. She said, "Sir." Bram said, "Bram." She said, "Bram." "Thank you." She came in. Aunt Netta, 63, met the 3 of them at the kitchen, with a plain, honest small tin of buttered brown bread and a plate of stew and 2 small cups of milk for the girls. She sat them at the plank table. She did not ask questions. She fed them. Ada and Prue ate the way small children eat, who have walked 22 miles the previous day and 14 today. They did not speak. They ate. Aunt Netta said, when the 2 girls had finished, "Miss Ada, Miss Prue, would you come with me? I will show you the small back room I painted blue last April, for reasons I did not know at the time. You may sleep in the west room tonight. Your mother will sleep in the small back room tonight. In the morning, we will discuss whether the blue room is to your liking." Ada said, in a small, clear, steady voice, "Ma'am, is the room called Ada?" Aunt Netta said, "The room is called whatever the small woman sleeping in it calls it." Prue said, "Ma'am, is there a barn cat?" Aunt Netta said, "There are 2, 9 and 10. Come." She took the girls out. Sarai Voss sat at the plank table with Bram Isham. She said quietly, "Bram." He said, "Sarai." She said, "May I speak plainly?" He said, "Please." She said, "I ran a small dressmaker's shop in Silver Ridge for 3 years, since my husband Colum died in a mine accident. I did honest work at an honest price. I did not accept any charity from the County Widows Fund, because I did not need it. In July, a small group of women of the Silver Ridge Ladies Improvement League, an organization not older than 18 months, decided that my shop should be handed to the widow of the mayor, because the widow of the mayor was in need of an honest occupation. They were not wrong about the mayor's widow. She is a plain, honest woman who needed a shop. They were wrong to give her mine. They started small, an unhelpful notice in the paper, then a boycott among their own members. Then, on the 2nd Sunday of September, a note in my transom saying my landlord had received a better offer for the shop, and I was to be out by the 15th. My landlord, a plain, honest man named Weller, came to me privately and said he had received the note also, but was under no obligation to sign the offer and would not. 2 days later, Weller was informed by the Ladies Improvement League that his own daughter, who had a place at the Silver Ridge School Teachers Board, would be denied her renewal in November if he did not comply. Weller wept at my counter. He asked my forgiveness. He signed. I was out by the 15th. I have $28 in the bank at Silver Ridge and 32 cents in my purse. I have my 2 girls. I have my carpetbag. I have my dressmaker's shears and the small collection of pins I could not part with. I am walking to my sister in Grand Fork, which is another 60 miles. I am asking you plainly for 1 night. I will pay you a day's work at any reasonable task by way of the $28 I still have in the bank at Silver Ridge, which I will wire from Grand Fork when I arrive." Bram Isham listened at the plank table without interrupting. He said, at the end, "Ma'am." Sarai said, "Sarai." He said, "Sarai." My Aunt Netta and I have been discussing since April the plain honest fact that this ranch has needed a household mender for the crew of 6, and no one at Silver Ridge, or Broken Ridge, or Cutbank has been able to sew a mended cuff that will hold a season. My aunt has, at 63, decided her eyesight will no longer support the small, honest work of a cuff. The crew has been going through cuffs like a mercantile counter goes through flour. I have been paying Old Weller of Silver Ridge $1.45 a cuff for the last 4 months, because there has been no one closer. I would like to offer you a position at this ranch as household seamstress and mender at a plain, honest wage of $9 a week, and board for you and your 2 girls. I would like your girls to have the blue room. My Aunt Netta will chaperone at the plank table until such time as any decision by anyone at this table is made. The position and the room, and the girls' place at the plank table, are yours as long as you would like them. That is the plain, honest offer. Please answer at your leisure. Sarai Voss looked at Bram Isham a long moment. She said, "Bram." He said, "Yes." She said, "May I ask whether Aunt Netta was, at any point since April, considering the plain, honest possibility that a dressmaker's widow from Silver Ridge might, at some point, walk to the porch step of the Isham ranch?" Bram Isham said, "Sarai." Sarai said, "Yes." Bram said, "Aunt Netta painted the blue room in April." Sarai said, "I accept the position." She stayed. She kept the crew's cuffs mended. She kept Aunt Netta's kitchen curtains clean. She made small green dresses for Ada and Prue that were finer than any small green dresses Silver Ridge had ever sold. She made Bram Isham a plain, honest new work shirt in October that fit better than any shirt he had owned in his adult life. She made Aunt Netta a plain, honest, small silk blouse for Christmas that made Aunt Netta cry. Ada, 7, began, in October, to walk out to the barn each morning to feed 9 and 10 by hand. Prue, 5, took to sleeping with a small carved horse Oldfell had whittled her the first Sunday of October, and did not, in the whole of the winter, walk anywhere without it. Bram Isham watched all of this at the plank table. He said nothing about it for 4 months. On the second Sunday of February, at supper, Aunt Netta set down her fork and said, "Nephew, Sarai." Bram said, "Aunt Netta." Sarai said, "Aunt Netta." Aunt Netta said, "The 2 of you have not raised the plainer conversation. You have been at this plank table 5 months. I am not going to raise it for you. But I am going to leave the plank table for the porch step now, and I would like to hear before I return from the porch step whether it has been raised. That is my ultimatum." She left. Bram Isham looked at Sarai Voss across the plank table. He said, "Sarai." Sarai said, "Bram." He said, "I have been in love with you since the porch step in September, when you set your carpetbag down and said, 'Sir,' in a plain, honest voice. I have not said anything, because you came to my door with your girls, and I did not want to press against the plain, honest reason. I am pressing now because Aunt Netta has ordered it, and because I have watched Ada and Prue this winter come to know my aunt as their own, and my crew as uncles, and because Ada asked me at the barn this morning whether she may call me Papa Bram at the plank table. I told Ada I would speak to you before answering." Sarai Voss said, "Bram." He said, "Yes." She said, "I have been in love with you since the porch step in September, when you set your ledger down and asked me plainly how far I had walked. I have not said anything because you offered me a position on a plain, honest business footing, and I did not want to press against the plain, honest business footing. I am pressing now because Ada told me at breakfast this morning what she had asked at the barn. Ada is a plain, honest woman of 7 who does not miss things. Please tell her yes." Bram Isham said, "Sarai." Sarai said, "Yes." He said, "Will you marry me?" Sarai said, "Yes." Aunt Netta, from the porch step, said, "About time." The circuit preacher married Bram Isham and Sarai Voss in the front room of the Isham Ranch on the last Sunday of March. Ada, 7.5, gave her mother away. Prue, 6, held the ring on a folded piece of blue muslin without dropping it. Aunt Netta stood witness for Sarai. Oldfell, 68, stood witness for Bram. Weller of Silver Ridge, the plain, honest landlord, who had signed against Sarai the previous September, rode out for the wedding on his own horse, in his own good coat. He had, in the intervening months, been publicly informed by his daughter's teachers' board that his daughter's renewal had never been in serious question, and that the Ladies' Improvement League had bluffed. Weller had, since that October, refused to rent his Silver Ridge storefront to the mayor's widow at any rate, and had, in November, closed the shop and moved into it himself as a small mending business of his own that was, plainly, taking custom from every direction. He came to the wedding to ask Sarai plainly for her forgiveness at the plank table. Sarai said, "At the plank table, Weller, I forgave you at the porch step in September, the moment I heard the second daughter's name. Do not press on the forgiveness. Sit at the plank table, eat pie." Weller ate pie. 2 years on a warm September evening at the Isham Ranch, Sarai Isham sat on the porch step with Bram beside her, and their small son Bram Jr., 10 months old, asleep against her chest. Ada, 9.5, and Prue, 8, were on the porch bench, both in small green dresses their mother had sewn plainly. The Silver Ridge Ladies' Improvement League had, in the intervening months, been quietly dissolved after a plain, honest article in the Denver paper about the Weller and Voss episodes at Silver Ridge. Its former officers were, plainly, no longer speaking to each other. Bram Isham said, "Sarai." Sarai said, "Bram." He said, "The Silver Ridge School has, this September, asked whether you would consider taking a small position teaching plain, honest sewing to the small girls of the school, 1 afternoon a week." Sarai said yes. Bram said, "It is a small position." Sarai said, "It is a very good position. Please write them tomorrow, that I will begin on the first Wednesday of October. I would like Ada and Prue to see their mother teach at Silver Ridge on the plainer, honester terms." Bram Isham kissed his wife's temple. The pasture went to gold. 9 and 10 the barn cats sat at Prue's boots. Aunt Netta, in the porch rocker, mended a small blue dress. And Sarai Voss Isham, who had knocked at the porch step of the Isham Ranch at 3 in the afternoon on a Tuesday in September, with her 2 daughters holding her skirt and her 1 carpetbag beside her, put her cheek against her husband's shoulder and understood that the good slow country had, in its good slow way, arranged an 18-month-old Ladies' Improvement League at Silver Ridge to close her small dressmaker's shop, and had, on the strength of 1 plain, honest 56-mile walk to the porch step of a plain, honest rancher, whose plain, honest aunt had painted a small back room blue the previous April, for reasons she had not yet known, given her back not just her plain, honest shears, but the whole rest of a household under a plain, honest ranch's plank table. Silver Ridge would never, in its 18 months, have thought to arrange for her. And so it had.